Welcome back to Quick Take a Break. I'm Jennifer Zabasaja coming to you today from Brooklyn. So the restaurant industry has really had a hard time, as we know, this year, and they're pleading with Congress for targeted aid to help them stay in business as the pandemic continues to force many establishments to shut their doors temporarily and in many cases even permanently. So this week for our series, The Rebuild, we're introducing you to one restaurateur who's sharing his story with us. Meet Dan Jacobs.
You're looking at an extinction level event of restaurants. I don't think people fully understand how desperate this is. We need this help and we need the help now. A typical day before COVID was me being in the restaurant between 9 and 10 a.m. It would usually end somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock at night, anywhere between 5 and 6 days a week. I love doing this. I love this industry. It's building that atmosphere and that culture that people want to stay in and people want to be part of it. Me and my wife moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we've made our home here for the last 10 years almost now. I met my partner Dan Van Wright in 2016. We opened up Dan Dan. Dan Dan's food and style is kind of a labor of love. As a child growing up, we ate at Chinese restaurants quite a bit in Chicago. Me and my partner's thought process was that if something that truly makes us happy and we offer that to other people, that should make them happy. And I think for the last 4.5 years, we've done that here with our take on Chinese American food. As COVID hit, we've had to pivot and repivot, change, adapt, be fluid, and really kind of just try and think ahead, which has been tough. As the stay-at-home order went into place in March, we had to furlough, I'd say about 70% of our staff. We went from 90 plus people to right around 20. Those numbers are just crushing. Those are crushing numbers to hear. Unfortunately, in June, we had to close Batch's Bakery and our French restaurant, Fauntleroy, and Dan Dan to go to a takeout-only format. It's been really difficult, and now as winter has come upon us, we're in a worse off place than we were in March. Before we reopened inside, we brought up to the staff that we were willing to invest $20,000 into the front of the house to add the partitions, the I-way filtration system, the Dyson Air blades. We get customers that come and dine inside, but it is a drastic amount less than we were doing before. We're not seeing our regular customer base return yet. A lot of the people that are on our staff, if I lay them off, I'm basically putting them into poverty, and that weighs heavily on my shoulders. The Main Street Alliance put my name forward to speak with President-elect, and I was lucky enough to be chosen.
Dan Jacobs, you're a small business owner. You own restaurants. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
This is the big one, Mr. President-elect. We as small business owners, like our workforce, cannot have that help come in the form of taking on more debt. We need grant help, and we need that grant help now. All I'm asking is that you give us the tools to succeed, to get back to what we do best, which is hospitality.
Thank you, Dan.
I do believe that the president-elect heard what I had to say, but he can't do anything right now. I don't think people fully understand how desperate this is. We're looking at losing another 70% of restaurants if no federal help comes. Restaurants are an engine of our economy. We support this ecosystem of people, whether they're butchers, fishermen, farmers, bakers, all the way to the Cisco driver who drives that truck. Without us, these things eventually collapse. And I really hope that our industry can, get through this, be stronger, be able to support our employees better, and move towards a more equitable future.
And we want to say thanks so much to our digital team for that piece. And now we want to welcome Dan Jacobs onto Quick Take. He is the co-owner of Dan Dan and also a part of the Independent Restaurant Coalition leadership team. Dan, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for being with Quick Take today. I mean, we heard a little bit of your story in that piece that was shot last week, but of course, in the past few days, many places have really gotten a bit of a feel for what this winter might be like. Walk us through what the past week has been like in Milwaukee, where you are, for restaurants.
So, in Milwaukee, this past week, I think, as news started to come from Congress about, not really having any room in the $908 billion bill for a restaurant act, especially amongst the restaurants and bars, it feels a bit desperate. It's definitely a blow, to what we're doing. Those of us working in restaurants really feel let down by government. Our workforce is worse off than we were in the spring. We feel marginalized, and that's coming from the already marginalized workforce of immigrants, single moms, people of color, young people in their first jobs or old people in their last jobs. We feel kind of just left out in the cold a bit, literally.
And so, I mean, yeah. And as you mentioned, Congress is really in the final stages of this new stimulus bill. From what you know about it, does it go far enough to support your industry and yourself?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. The PPP extension is going to help us out definitely, but it doesn't do enough. 10 weeks of payroll can't make up for the 10 months of lost revenue that we're looking at. Regardless if we get PPP or not in January, we're going to have to lay off people in the new year. And my biggest fear is I don't know where these people are going to go. No restaurants or bars here in Milwaukee are looking to hire people right now. If I was laid off, like if I was a worker and I was laid off, I don't have any other skill set. It's like, this is what I've done for the last 22 years. I love what I do. And we were doing it at a high level before the pandemic. This isn't our fault. The government's here for times of crisis, and they're just supposed to help us out. And this is where we need help.
And you're a co-owner of a restaurant. You talked a little bit about some of your staff. How are you guys operating right now? Are you doing takeout only, delivery only?
So we're doing takeout delivery, and we are still doing indoor dining. But, this is the big thing, is that the consumer confidence in going out to eat is just not there. We used to do on average about 200 people a night pre-COVID. During COVID, and since especially since summer ended, we're averaging about 42 people a night. That's a huge drop in guest count, which also comes as a drop in revenue. I mean, our revenue drop is over 50%. And it kind of feels like we're just starting over from the beginning. Problem is that this is a perfect storm. With revenue drop comes our inability to pay wages to our staff, which eventually is going to come to them, or us having to furlough or lay people off and put them in just an incredibly poor situation. What I really fear is that, that those that we're going to have to lay off will leave the industry possibly forever. And that's incredibly sad, because I really feel like we could lose the next great generation of chefs or restaurateurs with that.
And so then, I mean, you mentioned this in the piece, but you said the restaurant industry needs the tools to succeed. What does that look like for you? I mean, how do we put a stop to sort of what's happening to the restaurant industry in this country at this point?
I mean, look, money is not going to be the only thing that's going to help things, but being able for us to expand the maximum, maybe if we have to use the PPP, being able to expand the maximum amount of money we're able to receive to 9 months instead of 10 weeks, that will help us keep people employed. Keep moving forward to a time when we're actually going to be needed at the end of this. When we've gone through the tunnel, we're going to need our staffs because people are going to want to go out. People are going to want to go back to what we're doing. It would help if the PPP provided us with the ability to spend that money on protective equipment, cost of goods, let restaurants that have had to close use those funds to reopen and reemploy their staffs.
And so then, I mean, we saw you there in the piece as well, meeting with the president-elect. I mean, do you, as part of maybe the IRC, the Independent Restaurant Coalition, do you have plans to work with the incoming administration and potentially meet with President-elect Biden again to walk him through sort of some of the things that you just shared with us?
Absolutely. Given the opportunity to speak with the president again when he's president-elect, when he's president, would be an honor. But, we're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to do our part. We're going to ask Congress to do theirs. The Independent Restaurant Coalition isn't going anywhere. We urge Congress to consider the Restaurant Act and deliver direct relief to an industry as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully they're hearing your message. I know there's a ton of lawmakers who have backed this Restaurant Act, so we're going to watch it really closely. Dan Jacobs, co-owner of Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Please continue to come back to Quick Take. Thanks so much for your time.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.